All right, so this one's raised to the third power, which means that's my n, right? So n would be 3. And how many terms should your answer have? 4. So out of curiosity, how many of you do the binomial coefficient, the c, and how many of you do that? Or the other option would be Pascal's triangle. So how many of you do the c each time? Okay, and how many of you do Pascal's triangle? Okay. Okay. You've got till next week to learn it, but I will learn it. I think it's easier. Ready? 1 and 1, 1, and then 1, 2, 1, and then 1, 3, 3, 1, 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. I only need to go to the one that has the 3. So as soon as you get there, you're done.
So are the numbers always the same?
Yeah. You add the 2 numbers above it together to give you the 1 below it.
Right, but you always start out 1.
Always starts 1, always ends 1, which is the same for having C, right? If it's C40, or sorry, C30 or C33, first and last are always 1 as well. So then I get 1, and then 3, makes life easier, and then 3, and then 1. I can memorize stuff, but I don't memorize it. I add it together every time.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's that bad once you figure out that little pattern.
So you know to do the third row
Because the n is 3. Yep.
I just want like a screenshot.
But what happens if you don't go enough rows and then you need the next row?
Screenshot again?
No, learn how to do it. All right, so then the second one is the first term raised to the highest exponent, which is 3, and then we go down each time by 1. So 3m to the third, 3m to the second, 3m to the first, and 3m to the 0. And then I do the second term, which is a negative 2n squared to the 0, work your way up. You could also start over here at the 3 and work your way backwards. Like if you want to go up to the right and then back down to the left, you could totally do it. Doesn't matter what order you put it in. This would be negative 2n squared to the 0, negative 2n squared to the first, negative 2n squared to the second, and negative 2n squared to the third. And then in between each of these is a plus for now. If there's a minus, that's obviously raised to an odd power, it's going to change that. So I'm going to go term by term. For the first one, obviously this stays 1. 3m to the third is what? What's 3 to the third? 27. And then m to the third. What's negative? It's very early. What's negative 2n squared raised to the 0 power? 1. So this becomes 27m to the third. Then I go to the next one. I'd get 3. Well, first I'm going to do this exponent. So 3, 9m squared, and then negative 2n squared. So 3 times 9 is 27, times negative 2 is negative 54, m squared, n squared. Then I go to the next one, so it's a plus. The 3, nothing changes. The 3m to the first, nothing changes. But the negative 2 squared becomes 4, and then the n squared is n to the fourth. So 3 times 3 is 9, times 4 is 36. So plus 36 mn to the fourth. Then plus, last one, this is 1. This would be 1, because anything raised to 0 power is 1. Negative 2 to the third is negative 8, n to the 6. When we raise a power to a power, we multiply. So then this actually becomes a minus 8n to the 6th. So there's your expanded binomial. Raise your hand if you got it right. Good. Okay. I would just say be really careful, like silly mistakes are made in between. The good news is this is not an all or nothing kind of a question. You can get partial credit, but just be really, really careful. Yep.
So with the first term, you go down, and then with the second term, you go up.
Correct. All right, so then we picked up, or we skipped this for yesterday, and this is to find a specific term. So if it's asking you for just like the 7th term in your expansion, what I would not recommend is multiplying it all the way out and then going to the 7th one and grabbing it. You wouldn't finish, okay? So you want to figure out this little trick, and that is what this is. To find a specific term, you do the CNR, which is why it's important to still know it. We're going to use it now, and we're going to use it in probability, but you're going to do the CNR. So there's three parts to this. The CNR is the first one. Then you're going to do the x to the n minus r, and x means the first term inside the parentheses. And then the last one is the y to the r. All right. So your n is your exponent, right? We know this. N is going to be the exponent on the outside of your parentheses, so whatever's being raised here. Okay, the r is what's a little bit tricky, but once you understand it, hopefully you can get it. The r is not the same as the numbered term, because if you think about when we expand, we start with r0, right? If I expand out a CNR, I start with CN0, and then I do CN1, and then I do CN2, and so on and so forth. So the r is one less than the numbered term. So if it says here, I mean, that's what this is, but r one less than the named term, so whatever the numbered term is. So if it says the third term, r is 2.
Oh, but it's the one that they're asking for, right?
One less than that, right? So if it said find the seventh term, your r is 6. One less because we start with 0. So like the first term is the 0 term, second term is 1, third term is 2, like that. So it's always one less. So if you wanted to find the third term of this binomial, I have to find n, which is what it's being raised to, which is 3. If it said third term, r is 2. And then I use this little formula, C3, 2, because that's your n and your r. The x means the first term. So actually, in this case, x squared is my first term. And I raise that to the n minus r, so 3 minus 2. And then the second term is your y in this little formula. So the y here is a positive 4. And I raise it to the r, which is 2. So then I'm going to do C3, 2. 3 factorial over 3 minus 2 factorial times 2 factorial. 3 factorial over 1 factorial times 2 factorial. 3 times 2 factorial over 2 factorial times 1. The 2 factorials cancel, and this is 3. So that's the C. Then x squared raised to the first is going to stay x squared. And 4 squared is 16. So this term, I multiply the 3 times the 16, and I'd get 48x squared. So it is C. This is the formula you need to know. So if you're keeping track of your formulas for Chapter 8, you've got the 5 from your series and summation. Then we added on the binomial coefficient C, and then we add on this one. Like the expansion, there's not really a formula there. You guys kind of know that pattern. But we just added on 2 more formulas for Chapter 8. Questions so far? The work? Yeah. All right, so this one says find the 5th term of a plus 2b to the 8th. So I need CNR, the first term to the n minus r, the second term to the r. So what's my n? 8. What's my r if I'm finding the 5th term? Good. So this is C, 8, 4. First term is A, raised to the 8 minus 4. Second term is 2B, raised to the 4. So I'm going to do C8, 4, 8 factorial over 8 minus 4 factorial, which is 4 factorial, times 4 factorial. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 factorial over, I'm going to line it up with one of them, and then I'm going to break down the other one. So the 8 factorial is in the top, 4 factorial over times 4 factorial on the bottom. I broke down the 8 until it hit the 4, lined it up with one of the 4 factorials, and then broke down the other one. So then this cancels. I can put 2 into 6, that'd be 3 times, and then 3 cancels into the 3. 4 goes into 8 2 times, and I end up with 2 times 7, which is 14, times 5, which is 70. And that's my C84. Which part? The canceling? So it looked like, are you good with the breakdown? Like this, 5, right? And then 4 factorial. And then I broke down the other one, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the 4 factorial is canceled. 2 went into the 6 3 times, and then the 3's canceled. And then the 4 went into the 8 twice. So I have 2 times 7 times 5. So I go right to left. You don't have to. I just go right to left because you usually tend to be able to cancel at least one whole number out. But it doesn't, you don't have to do it that way. Okay, so then the A is raised to the 4th because it'd be 8 minus 4. The 2 is raised to the 4th power, and then the B is raised to the 4th power. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. And then I have to do 16 times 70. And I get 1,120, A to the 4th, B to the 4th. When you're writing out your terms, your variables should go in the order that they originally were. So like the A is the first term, the B is the second term. They're usually in alphabetical order. But you always want the number to be at the front. All right, so 6th term of A plus 2B to the 8th. First of all, what's my N here? 8. And if it's the 6th term, R is 5. So C8, 5, A to the 8 minus 5, and 2B to the 5th. So my 8 factorial over 3 factorial times 5 factorial becomes 8, 7, 6, 5 factorial over 5 factorial, 3, 2, 1. The 5 factorials cancel. 2 goes into 6 3 times, and then the 3's cancel. So 56 is your binomial coefficient. A to the 3rd, 2 to the 5th, so we just did 2 to the 4th, right, which was 16, which means this is 32, B to the 5th. And then you have to multiply out 56 and 32. $1,792, A to the 3rd, B to the 5th. There's a chance that there's 2 things that will happen on your test. Either I give you a only 4 function the whole time, which I don't think I'm going to do, or I separate it out into 2 parts and you get your scientific on the second part. Because when we get into probability, like when we get into the next section, you're going to see there are times when you're going to really want your scientific calculator. And in those cases, so this would be on the non-calculator portion. Yeah. So you're going to have to multiply a 2-digit number by a 2-digit number. It's crazy. All right. So think about the fact that neither of these examples had a minus between, right? But that effect would come into here, right? So if it was a negative 2b, be careful with that. That would end up being a negative 32, and my whole answer would be negative. So it's quite possible you got a negative sign in there. Just be really careful. Make sure you keep it in the parentheses. We good? I promise you'll survive. So it's the 8th row, right? So 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, 1, 4, 5, 10, 10, 5, 1, 6, 15, 20, 15, 6, 7, 21, 35, 35, 21, 7, 1. And then this is the 8th row, 28, 56, 70, 56, 28, 8, 1. So that's your 8th row. It's now, yeah. I thought I put it on yesterday's, but I guess I didn't. But that's your Pascal. So like you just go to N is 8. Pause.